I wake up to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. The sunlight is still hesitant to break through the blinds, and the early morning silence is both soothing and unsettling. It's a little after 7 a.m., but I can't afford to sleep in, not anymore. I swipe my phone open with groggy fingers and see the notifications, some emails, some texts, mostly reminders about bills that I can't forget, even if I tried. I roll over, sighing deeply, and press my palm to my forehead. I've been living in this apartment for almost 3 years now. It's small, but it's mine, or at least it feels like mine, even though the bank technically owns it. The rent is too high, but I don't have much of a choice. The job I have barely covers it. Most days, it feels like my entire life is in some kind of financial limbo. I work hard, I try to be careful with my money, but it seems like I'm always running uphill, always one step behind. It's not that I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't need anyone to tell me I should cut back on my lattes or make more meals at home instead of ordering takeout. I get it. But it doesn't help. It doesn't change the fact that everything around me is getting more expensive. Groceries, gas, rent. The price of living is like a wave that keeps getting higher, and no matter how hard I try to swim, it's pulling me under. Yesterday, I had to choose between buying a new pair of shoes for work or putting that money toward a payment I missed on my credit card. The shoes I needed for an interview next week, but the payment needed to be made or my credit score would take another hit. I know that in the grand scheme of things, a missed payment is just a small slip, but the weight of it feels like a mountain. I picked the credit card payment, but now I'm walking around with worn-out shoes that I can barely stand in, feeling the pressure in my feet as much as I feel it in my chest. I think about how much I used to dream. I used to imagine a future where I had enough, where I could buy what I needed without thinking twice about it, where my paycheck wasn't already spent before it even hit the bank account. I wanted to travel, see places I've only read about. I wanted to own things that felt like real possessions, not just things that barely lasted a few months. I wanted to know what it felt like to not feel behind, like I was playing catch-up in a race I could never win. But those dreams feel distant now. Sometimes, they feel more like fantasies, things for other people. People with family money, or those who are already established in their careers, or just, people who don't have to choose between eating and paying rent. I tell myself I'm doing the best I can. I remind myself that I'm not alone in this struggle, that so many other people are in the same situation. I even try to hold on to that tiny sliver of hope, telling myself that one day, I'll find the right opportunity and break free. But those moments of hope are hard to hold on to. The weight of today always pushes them down. I try to cope, but sometimes it feels like the exhaustion is too much. I stay busy, working extra hours, running errands, doing everything I can to keep the bills paid and food on the table. But when I'm lying awake at night, it feels like there's no end to the pressure. No way to breathe. I count the hours until I have to wake up again and do it all over. Even the simplest of things feel draining. I see my friends posting pictures of vacations, or enjoying nights out, and it stings. I know they work hard too, but they don't seem to be struggling the way I am. Sometimes, I wonder if I'm just bad with money. Or maybe I'm just unlucky. I think about the things I've had to give up. I used to enjoy small luxuries, sitting in a cafe with a book, a movie night with friends, the occasional splurge on something nice for myself. But those are all on hold now. Everything feels like it's for the future, not the present. I don't even have time to imagine what I'd want for myself because I'm too busy focusing on surviving. The other night, I had a conversation with my mom on the phone. She told me that she's been worried about me, that she could tell I'd been stressed, and that I should consider looking for a new job, one with a higher salary. The problem is, I'm already looking. But every job I apply to seems to require more experience than I have, or it doesn't pay enough to make a real difference in the big picture. It feels like I'm stuck in a system where nothing changes. Even if I get a raise or a new job, it never feels like enough. The expenses grow faster than my income. I don't know if she understands. She's always been frugal, always found a way to make ends meet. Maybe it's easier for her to think that there's always a way out. But I don't feel that way. It feels like I'm running in place. Sometimes I daydream about quitting everything and just disappearing for a while. I'd go somewhere cheap, somewhere away from it all, and just breathe for a few days. I think about how nice it would be to escape all the pressures for just a little while. But then I remember that I can't afford to take time off, not even for my mental health. The bills will pile up, and the weight of it will come crashing down the moment I get back. So, I keep moving forward, even though it feels like I'm walking through quicksand. I tell myself that this is temporary, that one day I'll look back at this time and see it as part of the journey to something better. But I'm not sure when that something better is going to happen. It feels like I'm waiting for something outside of myself to change, like the world will suddenly become more affordable, or like some miracle job will fall into my lap. I know it's not realistic to expect that, but I can't help it. Some days are better than others. Some days, I feel like I can keep going. But then, on days like today, when everything feels like it's too much, I wonder how long I can keep pretending that it's all okay. I wonder how long I can smile through the exhaustion and convince myself that I'm just a little bit closer to the life I've dreamed of. It's hard not to feel like I'm failing when every part of my life feels like it's slipping through my fingers, just a little too fast to catch. But I keep telling myself that this is just a chapter. It has to be. If I let myself believe that this is all there is, then I don't know how I'll keep going. For now, I'll keep going. I'll keep working, keep hoping, and keep holding on to the idea that there is something better on the other side of all this. But some days, it's hard to believe in that future when the present feels like it's suffocating me. Maybe tomorrow will be better. Maybe it won't. Either way, I'll be here, just trying to make it through. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I've started to think of every day as a puzzle. Not one of those easy ones you can casually throw together in an afternoon, but the kind that makes you want to give up halfway through because the pieces just won't fit. That's my life now, a constant cycle of putting things together and hoping it will somehow make sense. It wasn't always like this. I used to think that if you worked hard enough, the rest would fall into place. My parents told me that, and it seemed true when I was younger. They always talked about sacrifice, sacrificing for your family, sacrificing for your future. They said, don't worry, things will get better. You'll be fine if you keep pushing. But now, sitting at my kitchen table, staring at the piles of bills, I'm not so sure. It feels like I'm running in place. Every time I take one step forward, I end up sliding 2 steps back. The rent goes up every year, utilities are climbing, gas prices rise, and don't even get me started on food. I go to the grocery store and try to be careful, but it's impossible. I watch the prices on basic things like eggs and bread steadily increase, and every time I check out, I'm shocked at how little I actually bought for the amount of money I spent. I'm 24, and I'm doing everything I can to get by. I work 2 jobs, and I can barely keep my head above water. One's a full-time gig, the other part-time, just to make ends meet. I'm constantly juggling shifts, and my free time feels like a luxury that's almost non-existent. Weekends? Not really. There's always something that needs to be done, another errand to run, another bill to pay. The emotional exhaustion is real. Sometimes, I feel like I'm wearing a mask just to make it through the day. I smile at my coworkers, chat with the barista at the coffee shop, but inside, I'm drained. I can't talk about this, not openly. Who wants to listen to someone complain about money all the time? It's not like anyone can do anything to help me anyway. I never realized how much anxiety money would give me. It wasn't something they taught us in school. They taught me algebra and history, but they never told me about the emotional toll of debt, the weight of having to decide between paying for health insurance or buying groceries. They didn't prepare me for the guilt that comes when you can't go out with friends because you don't have the extra $20, or the sinking feeling when you look at your bank account and see that you've just enough to cover the bills, but not much else. I can't even tell you the last time I bought something just for fun, just because I wanted it. There's no room for fun anymore. It's exhausting. The pressure never lets up. There's always something new to worry about. I've had to postpone almost every dream I had. I used to want to travel, go to places I've only seen in pictures, taste foods from different cultures, feel what it's like to stand on a beach in another country. I used to imagine myself in a cozy apartment, not one that's half the size of a shoebox, but one I could afford without sweating every month. I used to dream of owning a car that didn't need constant repairs. I thought I'd be able to save up, build something for myself. But now, those dreams feel so far away, so out of reach. I don't even know if I'll ever be able to make them happen. Every time I think about the future, it feels like I'm walking on a tightrope. One wrong move, and I could fall. That's the thing about financial stress, it's not just about numbers. It's about the constant undercurrent of fear that creeps into your life. The constant worry that something's going to break, that something will go wrong, and you won't be able to fix it. I've had to delay so many things, buying a new laptop for work, getting my teeth cleaned, even treating myself to a massage for stress relief, just simple things that I used to take for granted. There's no room for those luxuries anymore. I can't remember the last time I allowed myself to relax without feeling guilty about it. I try to cope with it. I do. I've learned how to budget like an expert, tracking every penny and cutting corners wherever I can. But no matter how hard I try, it never feels like enough. I'll skip meals to save money, but then I get lightheaded and tired, and my focus at work suffers. Or I'll sacrifice sleep to pick up another shift, but the fatigue catches up with me and makes everything harder. It's a cycle of survival, and even though I'm doing everything I can, it's still not enough. And then there's the mental weight of it all. I get so caught up in just trying to make it through the day that I don't have the mental energy to think about anything else. Every conversation with a friend or family member feels like it's on autopilot because I can't be fully present. How can I be when I'm constantly thinking about money? How can I focus on anything else when I'm calculating how much I'll have left after rent, utilities, groceries, and gas? I don't have the luxury of emotional space. There's no room in my mind for anything other than the daily grind. But what hurts the most is the feeling of being stuck. It's like I'm living in a world where the rules are rigged, where it's easier for some to get ahead while I stay in this unbreakable loop. Every time I hear someone talk about getting a raise, starting a side business, or investing, I feel a little wave of resentment. Not at them, but at the system that makes it so much harder for people like me to get ahead. Every step feels like an uphill battle, and for what? To stay afloat? To just keep treading water? It doesn't feel like progress. It feels like survival, like doing what I can just to avoid sinking. I think about the future sometimes, though, and I wonder if it will ever get easier. Will I ever be able to take a vacation? Will I ever be able to save up for a house, or go to a concert without checking my bank account beforehand? Will I ever feel like I can relax without that gnawing feeling in the back of my mind telling me I should be doing something else? Sometimes, I wonder if the dreams I had will ever come true, or if they'll stay buried under all this financial pressure. For now, I keep going. I keep working. I keep budgeting and making sacrifices. I don't know how else to survive. But there are days when it feels like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I can't help but ask myself, is this really all there is? I wake up before my alarm most mornings, not because I'm rested, but because my brain won't stop tallying numbers. Rent. Groceries. Credit card minimum. Wi-Fi. Bus pass. The numbers race each other around my skull like a greyhound track. By the time my alarm does go off, I'm already tired from the day ahead. I'm 27. I have a degree in communications and a job in retail that pays just above minimum wage. I took the job just for now 3 years ago, after a string of unpaid internships and fruitless applications. Now I fold jeans, pitch store credit cards, and watch as my manager, who's only 2 years older than me, slowly stops seeing me as a temporary employee. Some days I catch myself getting good at it, selling, smiling, managing stock. And I hate that. Because it's not what I wanted, not what I studied for, not what I thought I was working toward. But that hate is a quiet, bitter thing now. It doesn't scream anymore. It sits in my chest like a stone I've learned to carry. My apartment is small, a converted attic in an old house that groans when it's windy. My roommate, Casey, and I split the $1,600 rent, which is cheap by city standards. Neither of us has a car. We microwave almost every meal and use space heaters because the central heating barely works. We laugh a lot, but not because life is easy. It's because if we didn't, we'd probably scream. There's no such thing as impulse spending. Every dollar has a job. I don't go out unless someone else is paying. I count bus transfers to stretch a single fare into 2 trips. I don't have health insurance, so I avoid doctors unless it's an emergency. When my wisdom tooth got infected, I downed ibuprofen like candy and Googled home remedies until it subsided. The economy doesn't feel like a system to me, it feels like a trap. Prices go up, wages stay the same, and every politician who claims to care seems more interested in posturing than fixing anything. I used to follow the news more closely, trying to understand what was happening. Now I mostly tune out. It feels like being in a car with no steering wheel. You're moving, yeah, but you're not driving. I cope in pieces. I journal sometimes. I walk when I can. I reread old books from the library that remind me of who I used to think I'd be. I have a folder on my laptop called Someday filled with things like grad school applications I never sent, trips I planned on taking, and articles I wanted to write. Some nights I open it and let myself feel all the things I've been pushing down: disappointment, grief, exhaustion. Other nights, I don't go near it. One of the hardest things to explain to people is that it's not just about money. It's about time, energy, possibility. When your brain is always calculating, you don't have space for dreams. You're in survival mode. I see my friends posting pictures from Europe or starting new jobs that actually use their degrees, and I want to be happy for them. I am happy for them. But I also feel like I'm running a race with cinder blocks tied to my feet. Dating? Forget it. Not when you can't afford a movie ticket without checking your balance first. Not when you don't even feel proud of where you are in life. I've had a few short-lived relationships, but they usually fizzle when I have to explain why I can't do dinner unless it's at my place and why I haven't moved on from my retail job. People are polite, but you can see it in their eyes, they think I'm not trying hard enough. The truth is, I'm trying constantly. That's the cruel part of it. The assumption is that if you're struggling, you must be lazy or careless. But I budget every cent. I've applied to more jobs than I can count. I've done freelance gigs that paid me an exposure or a $20 Starbucks card. I work 6 days a week. I don't go on vacations. I've skipped meals to make rent. And yet, I'm still here. Stuck. What keeps me going is, honestly, I don't know some days. Habit? Hope, maybe, in the smallest doses. Sometimes it's something simple, like when a customer says thank you and actually means it. Or when Casey and I scrape together enough for wine and frozen pizza and have a movie night on our tiny couch, pretending just for a couple hours that everything's okay. I used to dream of writing for a living, magazines, essays, novels maybe. I had a blog in college, and people liked it. Said I had a voice. But writing doesn't pay unless you already have money. I still write sometimes, late at night, when the silence makes the city feel less cruel. I tell myself I'll get back to it someday. I don't know if I believe that anymore. Sometimes I fantasize about leaving, finding a cabin in the woods, or moving to a smaller town where rent isn't half your paycheck. But then I remember I need this job. This paycheck. This fragile routine. So I stay. I wake up, count the numbers, and do it all over again. I don't need a mansion. I don't need luxury. I just want breathing room. A chance to stop surviving and start living. A life where I can afford to get sick without panic. Where I can plan a future that isn't just a mirage. I know I'm not alone in this. A lot of us are drowning quietly, smiling through it, pretending we're fine. But we're tired. And we're angry, even if we don't say it out loud. We were told to work hard, stay in school, follow the rules. And we did. But the game changed, and nobody told us. So here I am, 27, overeducated, underpaid, and running on fumes. Still hoping, somehow, that someday something will shift. That I'll get a break. That the weight will lift. That I'll find my way back to the dreams I had before the math took over. But until then, I keep going. One paycheck at a time. One day at a time. I didn't really understand what people meant when they talked about economic pressure growing up. It sounded like a far-off adult problem, like taxes or mortgages. But now I'm 27, and I think about it every single day, sometimes from the moment I wake up, sometimes when I'm trying to fall asleep. It's this constant, low hum of anxiety that never really goes away. I live in a small one-bedroom apartment with my partner, about an hour outside the city. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. We chose this place because it was cheaper, though cheaper still eats up almost half my monthly income. Rent has gone up twice since we moved in, and every time, we've had to give up something else to make room for it. First it was eating out. Then streaming services. Then the gym membership I used to love. Eventually we stopped calling it cutting back and started calling it surviving. I work full-time at a marketing agency. It's not glamorous, but I was lucky to get it after a string of contract jobs that offered no stability. I get paid just enough to keep from drowning, but not enough to feel like I'm ever getting ahead. After taxes, loan payments, rent, groceries, and gas, I'm lucky if there's $50 left in my account by the end of the month. That's if nothing unexpected happens, no doctor visit, no car trouble, no surprise bill. If it does, the credit card comes out. I hate that thing, but it feels like a lifeline sometimes. My student loans feel like a shadow I can't shake. I borrowed to go to school because I was told it would be worth it, an investment in my future. I believed them. I worked hard, graduated, and still ended up stuck in the same paycheck-to-paycheck cycle I thought college would rescue me from. Some days, I stare at my payment schedule and think, this will be with me until I'm 40. Then I close the tab and try not to cry. Most of my decisions revolve around money now. When friends invite me out, I do the mental math before I answer. If I go, that's probably $40 minimum. Can I make that work? If I say yes, does that mean skipping groceries for a couple days? Do I risk overdrafting again? Usually, I say I'm tired or have a deadline. The truth is, I just can't afford to be social. Even small things feel like luxury. I used to love getting coffee on my way to work, just a little daily ritual. But now that $5 cup feels like an indulgence I have to justify. Every dollar I spend carries this weight. Was this a smart choice? Should I have saved that? What if I need it later? It's exhausting. And then there's the emotional toll. It's not just about the numbers. It's the constant sense of failure, even though I know I'm doing the best I can. It's the guilt when my partner covers more groceries one month. It's the shame I feel when my younger cousin posts about their trip to Europe, while I haven't taken a real vacation in 5 years. It's the resentment I try not to feel when I hear someone talk about how their parents helped them with a down payment or covered their tuition. I'm happy for them. I am. But I wish I had that kind of safety net. What hurts the most is the dreams I've had to delay, or give up entirely. I wanted to go back to school eventually, maybe get a master's degree. That's off the table. I've always dreamed of traveling, backpacking through South America, visiting Japan. But right now, even a weekend getaway feels out of reach. We talked about starting a family one day, but with how things are going, it's hard to imagine affording kids. I want to buy a house, or at least stop renting, but that feels like someone else's life. Not mine. There are moments, quiet ones, when I catch myself imagining a different life. One where I don't wake up in a cold sweat because rent is due. One where I can say yes to plans without fear. One where I don't have to choose between saving for the future and surviving the present. I cope in small ways. I cook more now, which helps with costs and keeps my mind busy. I journal at night when the stress gets too heavy. I've gotten good at finding free things to do on weekends, walking trails, library events, local art shows. It's not the same, but it helps. Sometimes I apply to better paying jobs, even if I don't feel qualified, just to feel like I'm trying. Other times, I just lie in bed and scroll job boards like it's a form of prayer. Some days are harder than others. There are weeks when the stress knots itself in my chest so tightly I feel like I can't breathe. But there are also moments, small, tender ones, that give me hope. Like the way my partner makes pancakes on Sunday mornings, even if we only have enough mix for one batch. Or when a stranger buys a coffee for the person behind them, and I see that little ripple of kindness. Or when I talk to a friend who says, "Me too," and I realize I'm not alone in this. Because that's the thing, we're all trying. So many of us are caught in this system where the math doesn't add up. Wages stay flat, everything else rises, and we're supposed to make it work. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up every year, but you never get to stop. You just keep running, because what else can you do? I don't have a neat ending to this story. I'm still in it. Still budgeting every penny, still trying to find balance, still dreaming of a better life. I haven't given up. Not yet. But I do wish more people knew what it's really like, not the headlines or the statistics, but the day-to-day reality of trying to build a future when the present feels so precarious. All I want is a life where I can breathe. Where surviving isn't a full-time job. I don't really know how to start this, except to say I'm tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, more like the kind that sinks into your bones and stays there, like it's made a home in you. I'm 27, and I feel like I've already failed at being an adult in the way we were told it's supposed to look. I graduated college 5 years ago with a degree in communications. I was one of the hopeful ones. I had the internships, the side gigs, the volunteer work. I thought I'd done everything right. But right out of school, the entry-level jobs barely paid enough to cover rent, let alone the student loans, credit cards, and food. And now, even with a full-time job, I still live paycheck to paycheck. Sometimes it feels like I'm standing on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, and no matter how fast I run, I'm always just a misstep away from face-planting. Rent went up again this year. My roommate moved out, and I couldn't afford to replace them in time, so I picked up a second job delivering groceries. I work 9 to 5 at a marketing firm, then do app deliveries most evenings and weekends. It's exhausting, but I need the money. I hate that I've become the kind of person who calculates the cost of every coffee, every bus ride, every meal. I used to love spontaneous little luxuries, a movie, a new book, drinks with friends. Now everything is weighed against survival. Every decision I make is filtered through a tight, invisible equation: can I afford this? I don't even think about wants anymore, only needs. Groceries? Buy what's on sale. Rent? Pray I can Venmo my landlord on time. Health insurance? Skimpy plan. Can't afford therapy, even though I know I need it. I cry a lot more than I used to, mostly late at night. It's not even sadness sometimes, just this overwhelming sense of pressure, like there's a heavy blanket on my chest and I'm stuck under it, clawing for air. There's this constant shame I carry, too. I feel guilty when my friends invite me out and I say no, not because I don't want to see them, but because I can't afford to split the bill or Uber home. I've stopped getting invited as much. I know they don't mean to leave me out, but it hurts. It's isolating. My family tries to be supportive, but they don't really get it. They came from a different economy, one where you could afford an apartment and a car on a single income. My parents bought their first house when they were younger than I am now. I can't even imagine having a mortgage. I'd settle for a studio apartment that didn't eat up 60% of my monthly income. I once joked to a friend that I'd have to sell a kidney to own property, but it didn't even feel like a joke. I used to dream big. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to start my own design studio one day. I pictured myself living in a cozy apartment with plants and art and sunlight streaming in through big windows. I wanted a dog. I wanted stability. Now I just want to stop feeling afraid every time I check my bank account. The worst part is the way the world looks at people like me, like we're lazy or entitled because we're struggling. As if working 60+ hours a week and still barely scraping by is a moral failing. As if all we have to do is budget better or work harder. I already work harder than I ever have in my life. It's just that the game feels rigged. Wages haven't kept up with inflation. Rent and food and gas keep going up, but my paycheck doesn't. The cost of living grows faster than I can run. I know I'm not alone. I see it in my friends' eyes too, the same stress, the same hustle, the same quiet panic when the card reader blinks longer than expected. We joke about it to make it bearable. Just put it on the "I hope I die before the bill is due" card, one of my coworkers said last week, and we all laughed too hard. I've had to put a lot of dreams on hold. I was going to go back to school for a master's, maybe switch careers. That's not happening. I was in a relationship that ended partly because neither of us could picture a future that wasn't just grinding until we broke. I've watched time pass, watched friends get married or move to new cities, while I feel stuck in place, working, worrying, waiting. But I still have small things I hold on to. The library is free, and I spend hours there on weekends, reading or journaling. Sometimes I go for long walks and let myself pretend I live in one of those nice apartments I pass by. I keep a vision board, most of it is still up from 3 years ago, faded a little, but not gone. And some days, I let myself believe that things could change. That maybe I'll catch a break. That I'll save enough to move somewhere cheaper, or land a remote job that pays better. That maybe the system won't always be this broken. Hope feels fragile, though. Like something I have to protect from the world. But I still carry it. Quietly, carefully. So, yeah. I'm tired. And scared. And angry, sometimes. But I'm also still here. Still trying. Still holding on to the idea that life could be more than just surviving. I used to think that if you worked hard, played by the rules, and stayed out of trouble, life would sort itself out. My parents told me that growing up, just do the right thing, and things will come together. But I'm 27 now, and if I'm being honest, every day feels like walking a tightrope stretched across a canyon of bills, debt, and invisible expectations. There's no safety net. Just a constant, nagging fear that one misstep could send everything spiraling. I live in a small apartment with 2 roommates in a part of the city that's up and coming, which really just means the rent goes up every year but the infrastructure stays the same. The paint is peeling in the hallway. The water runs lukewarm on a good day. But it's what I can afford. Barely. I work full-time in digital marketing, the kind of job that looks stable on paper but pays just enough to keep me from drowning, not enough to swim ahead. Rent eats about 40% of my income. The rest disappears into groceries, utilities, student loan payments, gas, and the occasional health insurance copay when I can't ignore a pain any longer. There's never anything left. No cushion. No savings. Emergencies don't feel like if anymore. They feel like when. I wake up every morning with this quiet anxiety already settled in my chest. It doesn't scream, it just hums in the background like a low-grade fever. I scroll through Instagram while I make my coffee, watching people I went to school with post vacation photos from Portugal or announce new job titles and engagement rings. And even though I know it's curated, even though I remind myself I'm only seeing the highlight reel, I can't help but feel like I'm stuck in place while everyone else is moving forward. It's not like I don't have dreams. I used to want to go to grad school, maybe shift into UX research or psychology, something with more purpose. But school is expensive, and even thinking about more debt makes my stomach turn. I wanted to travel, too. I had this idea of backpacking through South America after college, writing in cafes, living off simple meals and learning Spanish on the fly. Instead, I graduated into a job market that felt like it was recovering from a car crash, and I've been working non-stop just to keep my head above water. Some days I fantasize about quitting everything, leaving the city, getting a cabin in the woods, working with my hands, growing my own food. But that's not freedom either. That's just another kind of privilege I can't afford. Land isn't free. Time isn't free. Freedom isn't free. Every decision I make, what to eat, whether to go out, even what time to turn on the heat, runs through this filter of affordability. I stopped going to therapy because my insurance only covers part of it, and the copays added up fast. I ration my grocery budget like I'm living in a war zone. Canned beans and rice. Frozen vegetables. Eggs, if they're on sale. I love to cook, or I used to. Now it's just math. The worst part isn't even the money. It's the way it bleeds into everything, how it makes relationships harder because I can't afford spontaneous dates or weekend getaways. How it makes me feel like I'm always behind, like I'm failing at adulthood. I avoid phone calls from my student loan servicer. I don't open bank statements unless I have to. Sometimes I just need to pretend, for an hour or two, that everything's okay. I cope in small ways. I journal. I walk to clear my head, even if it's just around the block. I borrow books from the library and lose myself in someone else's life for a little while. I drink a lot of coffee, too, probably more than I should. It gives me something warm to hold, something to focus on in the morning, like a ritual. I text my friends, and we joke about our broke millennial lives, but there's real sadness under the sarcasm. We're all just trying to make it through. My parents don't really get it. They came up in a different economy. Bought their first house at 28. Raised 3 kids on one salary. I love them, and I know they mean well, but when they say things like "why don't you just save more," it feels like a slap. They don't see how different things are now. How wages haven't kept up. How everything, from rent to groceries to health care, has ballooned. It's like we're running a race where the finish line keeps moving, and we're told to run faster. And yet, I'm still trying. I still believe things can get better. I don't know if that's foolish or brave, but it's what keeps me going. I'm trying to build a future out of scraps, freelancing on the side, learning new skills online, saying yes to small opportunities that might grow into something bigger. I'm learning how to be resourceful, how to find joy in the margins. I haven't given up on my dreams. I've just folded them up and tucked them away for now, like letters I'll come back to later. Maybe one day I'll go back to school. Maybe I'll see the Andes. Maybe I'll write something that matters. But for now, I keep waking up. I keep showing up. I keep doing what I can, with what I have. Because despite everything, I still believe in the possibility of change, not just for me, but for all of us. I just hope it comes before we burn out completely. I didn't expect life in my 20s to feel like a treadmill I can't step off, moving fast, going nowhere. When I was younger, I thought being an adult would feel powerful. Independent. I imagined I'd have choices. But now, most days feel like I'm just reacting, dodging overdraft fees, stretching my last $40 for groceries, counting days until payday like it's some kind of lifeline. I'm 27, I work 2 jobs, and I still sometimes have to skip meals to make rent. I live in a tiny studio apartment that's technically affordable, but only because I share it illegally with my friend Cass. We take turns sleeping on the futon and the mattress on the floor. The fridge hums like it's dying, the walls are paper thin, and the tap water tastes like metal. But it's home. At least, for now. I work mornings at a coffee shop downtown, and evenings doing inventory at a warehouse outside the city. The coffee job is technically part-time, but I'm usually there 30 hours a week. I don't get benefits. The warehouse pays better, but it's hard on the body. Most nights, I come home so sore my knees throb when I lie down. I'm always tired. I haven't had a weekend off in 4 months. Everything feels so precarious. Like if I get sick, even just a cold, everything will fall apart. One missed shift could mean I can't cover my phone bill. A parking ticket could snowball into a bank overdraft, late fees, more fees. It's like living under constant threat. The stress lives in my chest. It's heavy. Some days, it feels hard to breathe. I used to dream about going back to school. I wanted to study social work, maybe even become a therapist someday. I've always been that person my friends come to. I listen. I care. But even thinking about tuition makes my stomach turn. I'm still paying off the community college debt from when I tried to take classes part-time a few years ago. Had to drop out when I couldn't juggle work and school anymore. Every month, the prices of things creep up. Eggs, bus fare, rent. But my pay stays the same. I do the math constantly. Budgeting feels like some sort of twisted game. How little can I spend and still survive? I've become an expert at saying no to myself. No, you don't need that coffee. No, you can't go out tonight. No, you can't afford a birthday gift for your niece. I used to feel guilty. Now, I just feel numb. Last week, I had to pretend I was just too tired to go to my friend's dinner. The truth is, I didn't have money to cover my meal and the tip. That's what life feels like now, saying no, hiding the truth, putting on a brave face. I hate that I'm becoming this person. Someone who's always scraping by. Someone who feels like they're failing, even when they're doing their absolute best. Some days, I scroll through job listings during my break, just to feel like I'm trying. But every listing that offers a livable wage either requires a degree I don't have, experience I couldn't afford to gain, or the kind of availability that isn't possible when you're already working 2 jobs. I feel stuck. Like I missed a step somewhere, and now I'll never catch up. I talk to my mom on the phone every Sunday. She tries to be supportive, but I can hear the worry in her voice. She tells me I'm strong. That I'll get through this. But she also says things like, "At least you have a job," and I know she means well, but it makes me feel small. Like I'm not allowed to feel overwhelmed because other people have it worse. It's not like I expect life to be easy. I just didn't think it would be this hard, for this long. There are moments, rare ones, where I let myself hope. Like when I see someone a few years older than me finally land a decent job, or when I read about student loan forgiveness proposals. Those moments remind me that maybe this isn't forever. Maybe I can still build a life I'm proud of. But the hope always fades fast. Rent is due. My bank account dips below $50. And I'm right back in survival mode. I cope in small ways. I write in a journal when I can. I listen to music on the bus, music that reminds me I'm still human, still capable of feeling something beyond stress and fatigue. I light a candle before bed, even if it's just for 5 minutes of peace. I find joy in scraps, a text from a friend, the way the city looks at sunset, a good cup of instant noodles when I'm starving. It's not much, but it's something. Sometimes, I wonder what life would look like if I wasn't always afraid. If I didn't have to measure every decision by its price tag. If I could take a deep breath without that knot in my chest. I imagine waking up in a quiet place, knowing I have the day off, walking into a kitchen with real groceries, sitting down to read a book, not because I have to, but because I want to. I want to believe that's still possible. That I'm not just meant to work and worry until I burn out. But right now, the reality is this: I work hard, I barely make enough, and I'm tired. Not just physically, emotionally, mentally. Tired in a way sleep can't fix. I carry the weight of a system that feels designed to keep me in place. And some days, that weight feels unbearable. Still, I keep going. Because what else can I do? Maybe someday I'll look back and say, I made it out. Maybe this chapter will become part of the story I tell, one of grit and resilience. But right now, I'm still in it. Still scraping by. Still hoping the next page will be a little lighter than this one. I always thought by 26 I'd be somewhere else, mentally, financially, maybe even geographically. Not exactly rich, not even especially successful, but stable. Like the people in ads for affordable streaming services, modest apartment, an avocado on toast, a plant by the window. But reality feels like an endless to-do list stapled to an empty bank account. Most mornings start with a small ritual. I check my bank balance before I get out of bed. I scroll past the notifications, overdraft alerts, payment pending, your subscription is about to renew, and steel myself for whatever number is there. Lately, that number hovers somewhere around $42. Then I go to the kitchen and try to convince myself that oatmeal with water is simplifying my lifestyle instead of I can't afford milk again. I work 2 jobs. Neither pays enough to live on its own. During the day I'm a receptionist at a dental office, and a few nights a week I deliver groceries through an app. The dentist job offers consistency, and the delivery work offers just enough unpredictability to give me the illusion of control, though gas prices and customer tips have their own agenda. Some days, after taxes, I make less than minimum wage. Still, I grind it out because the rent's due, and it's either this or slip deeper into credit card debt. Debt. I used to think of it as something temporary, like a bad cold. Now it feels more like a chronic condition, manageable on good days, crushing on others. Student loans, 2 credit cards maxed out, a hospital bill from when I fainted on the train last year and was too embarrassed to leave without getting checked. That ER visit cost me more than a month's rent. I still get emails from collections. Grocery shopping has become an act of strategic warfare. I make lists, compare flyers, clip digital coupons like my grandmother used to do with paper ones. I walk past produce and try to guess what will rot first and what might last me through the week. Bananas? Too risky. Potatoes? Better bet. I haven't bought strawberries in over a year. Sometimes I skip meals, not because I'm trying to save money, but because I'm just too tired to make decisions. Hunger blends into fatigue, and both become background noise. My friends are getting married, buying houses, going on vacations. I try not to compare, but I do. I scroll through their photos, Greece, Bali, mountain cabins with clean countertops and throw blankets folded just so, and it feels like they're living in a different version of adulthood. I celebrate their happiness sincerely, but a small voice inside me always whispers, why not you? What did you do wrong? I don't tell my parents the full truth. They have their own worries, and I can't bear the guilt of becoming another one. When they ask, I say things like, just keeping busy, or work's been hectic. They're proud that I moved to the city, proud that I'm figuring it out. But some nights I lie awake wondering if I've just been pretending all along. I used to dream of being a writer. That dream sits dusty in the corner of my mind now, next to my half-finished poetry manuscript and the book proposal I never sent. There's no time for art when rent is overdue and your phone screen is cracked and you're choosing between tampons and toilet paper at the store. I tell myself I'll come back to writing when things calm down, but it's been years, and calm feels like a myth. My coping mechanisms are patchwork at best. I take long walks with a playlist that makes me feel something, nostalgia, anger, defiance, hope, whatever. I call my sister, who lives in another city and gets it more than most. I journal, though lately the entries have started repeating themselves. And sometimes I cry in the shower, not the movie kind of crying with dramatic background music, but the quiet kind where your face crumples and no one knows. I've learned to ration not just money, but energy, optimism, even joy. I budget my hope like I budget groceries, sparingly, cautiously. I avoid places I can't afford to be tempted by. I say no to dinner invites, and when I do go, I order the cheapest item and pretend I'm not hungry. I hate the performative part of being broke, the lying, the acting like everything's fine when it's not. But shame is expensive, and pride doesn't pay bills. The system feels like quicksand. Every raise I get is eaten alive by rising rent, transportation, insurance, groceries. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up every time I catch my breath. Politicians talk about inflation like it's a blip, like a temporary inconvenience. But for me, it's not temporary, it's foundational. It's how I decide whether to heat my apartment in winter or wear another sweater indoors. It's why I haven't been to the dentist where I work, because even with an employee discount, I can't afford the procedures. Still, despite it all, some ember of hope survives. It has to. I dream about a life where I can breathe, where I'm not calculating how many hours of work equals a load of laundry or a bottle of Advil. I dream of writing again. Of waking up and making breakfast because I want to, not because it's all I can afford. I dream of softness, of being able to say yes without fear. A plant in the window. An avocado on toast. I don't need wealth. I just want enough. Enough to sleep without anxiety gnawing at my stomach. Enough to take a day off without spiraling into financial chaos. Enough to believe that the future could actually be better, not just survivable, but livable. So I keep going. I show up. I work. I laugh when I can. I let myself cry when I need to. And I hold on to the belief that maybe, just maybe, this isn't all there is. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I used to think by 27 I'd have it together. Not perfect, just functional. A steady job, maybe a little place of my own, the ability to buy groceries without mentally calculating every item in the cart. But instead, here I am, 27, sharing a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 roommates, one of whom stores his reptiles in the living room. The snakes don't bother me anymore. The feeling that I'm stuck does. I work full-time, 2 part-time jobs stitched together, actually. A coffee shop in the mornings, and data entry for a small logistics company in the evenings. Between the two, I make just enough to cover rent, food, and minimum payments on my student loans. I haven't been to the dentist in 3 years. My health insurance has a deductible so high it might as well be a second rent. So when I wake up with a sore throat or a mystery ache in my side, I just hope it goes away. I don't think people who haven't lived it really understand what it means to constantly be calculating. I don't mean budgeting. I mean mental gymnastics, looking at the bus fare and wondering if I can walk the 3 miles home to save that $2.75. Choosing between buying laundry detergent or getting a cheap bottle of shampoo. Saying no to a friend's birthday dinner, again, because I know even a $15 meal will throw off the whole week. Every decision feels like a choice between now and later, between today's needs and tomorrow's consequences. The economic environment, inflation, rent spikes, stagnant wages, it all sounds abstract until it's not. Until you're the one who gets an email saying your rent's going up $200 next month. Until you realize the bag of groceries that used to cost $40 is now $65, and you're still making the same $15 an hour you were 3 years ago. There's no such thing as financial momentum. Just a treadmill that keeps speeding up. Some days I feel like I'm barely surviving in a world that demands I thrive just to keep up. My parents try to be supportive, but they don't quite get it. When they were my age, you could afford a small apartment on one income, even save for a house. My dad keeps saying, you just have to be disciplined. I don't know how to explain that discipline isn't the problem. I'm not buying $7 lattes or splurging on new clothes. I've worn the same winter coat for 4 years. I canceled every subscription I used to have, Spotify, Netflix, even the meditation app one relied on when I had panic attacks. I miss dreaming. I used to want to go back to school for a master's in psychology. I wanted to work with teenagers, especially kids who grew up without much. I thought maybe I could help someone the way my high school counselor helped me. But how can I take on more debt when I can't even pay down what I owe now? The dream didn't die all at once. It just got quieter and quieter until one day I realized I hadn't thought about it in months. Instead, I've become good at coping. I find joy in small, cheap things. Long walks with my headphones in. Used bookstores where I can buy a paperback for a couple of bucks. A warm coffee I get for free during my shift, sipped alone behind the counter when it's quiet. I go to the library, I journal, I learn how to cook new things with whatever's cheapest that week: rice, beans, frozen veggies. There's a strange pride in that kind of resourcefulness, even when it's born of necessity. But I'm tired. Tired in a way that sleep can't fix. It's the kind of exhaustion that sinks into your bones, that comes from constantly being on alert. From knowing one unexpected bill, a flat tire, a medical emergency, even a late paycheck, could mean overdraft fees and skipped meals. There's no buffer. No safety net. Just me, balancing on a thread. And there's shame, too. Shame for not doing better. For needing to borrow $50 from a friend last month and still not being able to pay it back. For saying I'm busy when really I'm just broke. For wondering if this is my fault, if I missed some crucial step that other people figured out. Social media makes it worse, seeing people I went to school with buying houses, getting promotions, traveling. I'm happy for them, genuinely, but it makes me feel like I'm falling behind in a race I didn't know I was in. Still, I keep going. Because what's the alternative? I show up, I work hard, I scrape by. I laugh when I can. I hug my dog, who I rescued 4 years ago and who somehow understands my silences better than most people do. I cry sometimes, quietly, when it gets too heavy. Then I pull myself together and keep moving. Not forward exactly, more like in place, but at least I'm still moving. Hope is a strange thing. Some days it feels like a joke. Other days it's the only thing I have. I still hope that things will change. That I'll find a job that pays me enough to breathe. That I'll go back to school one day. That I'll travel, maybe to Spain or Japan, places I've only seen in photos. That I'll wake up and not immediately feel dread about money. That I'll look at my bank account and feel calm instead of panic. I hold on to that hope like it's a secret I tell myself in the dark. Maybe not today. Maybe not this year. But someday. And until then, I do what I can, with tired hands and a cautious heart, to get through. I used to think things would start making sense once I graduated. That there'd be a moment, maybe walking out of the auditorium with my degree in hand, when the world would finally snap into place. But that moment never came. Instead, I stepped off the stage and straight into a fog I haven't quite been able to see through since. I'm 27 now. I have a full-time job in marketing, the kind that looks decent enough on LinkedIn but feels like a tightrope walk every single day. My salary? $51,000 a year. It sounds okay, and it did feel like a win at first. But after taxes, rent, student loans, groceries, utilities, insurance, and the ever-increasing cost of just existing, I'm left holding an empty bag most months. Sometimes, I find myself doing math in the grocery store, like literal calculations in my head over whether I can afford both the chicken and the coffee this week. It's not just budgeting. It's strategizing for survival. Rent alone is $1 for $85 for a one-bedroom I share with my best friend because neither of us can afford to live alone. When I signed the lease 2 years ago, it was $250. But inflation, they say. Everything climbs except the one thing I actually need to rise, my paycheck. Debt is another shadow that trails me everywhere. I owe $34,000 in student loans. It's like carrying an invisible boulder on my back. I make my payments every month, just the minimum, and the balance barely shrinks. Some nights I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'll still be paying this off when I'm 40. Or 50. Or dead. I think what wears me down most isn't even the numbers, it's the slow, persistent erosion of hope. There are dreams I've quietly shelved without saying goodbye. Travel, for instance. I used to imagine taking a month off to see Europe, maybe start in Spain and wander east. Now I can't even afford a weekend trip to see my sister in another state unless I starve the following week. I postponed grad school, even though I know it might help me level up. I've delayed moving out on my own, though independence used to be something I craved. And I put off therapy, even though I know I need it, because even with insurance, it costs more than I can spare. Instead, I cope how I can: journaling, long walks when it's not freezing, the occasional splurge on a cheap bottle of wine, and a night in with a friend. Some days are okay. I get into a rhythm and tell myself it's just temporary. That I'm doing everything right, working hard, saving what I can, living below my means. But then I'll get hit with something unexpected: a dental bill, a car repair, an invite to a friend's wedding I can't afford to attend, and it's like the floor drops out from under me all over again. There's also this gnawing guilt that comes with every no, I can't go out tonight. No, I can't contribute to the group gift. No, I can't afford to help. It feels like failure, even though I know, rationally, it isn't. It's just reality. A system that wasn't built with people like me in mind. Sometimes I see tweets or TikToks from other people my age who are buying houses, starting families, launching businesses. And it's not jealousy, exactly. It's more like mourning for the version of me who believed that was possible. I've learned to find joy in small, quiet things. A good book from the library. A cup of coffee on a park bench. A warm shower at the end of a long day. I've also learned that pretending everything's fine helps no one. So I talk to my friends. We're all in the same boat, more or less, treading water together. There's comfort in that shared experience, even if it's not the kind of solidarity anyone wants to need. Hope hasn't vanished, but it's different now. Less about big, sweeping changes and more about small victories. I hope for a raise next year. I hope my car holds out another 6 months. I hope I can afford therapy by fall. These aren't grand dreams, but they're real, and they matter. There's a part of me, buried under the worry and the exhaustion, that still believes things can change. That I'll find a way to climb out of this. That maybe, someday, I'll take that trip. Maybe I'll have a savings account with more than 3 digits. Maybe I'll be able to help my parents instead of them still helping me. But until then, I keep going. I wake up, I show up, I do my best. I count coins, clip coupons, make coffee at home. I laugh when I can, cry when I have to, and write it all down so I don't forget that I'm still here, still trying. Because that's what survival looks like now. Quiet, persistent, often invisible, but very real. Some mornings, I lie in bed and let the ceiling blur in my vision while I try to find the courage to check my bank account. It's this quiet little ritual: wake up, scroll through the bank app, sigh. Then I stare at the cracked corner of my ceiling like it has answers I've missed. I'm 28. I have 2 jobs, a degree, no savings, and this vague, hollow ache that things are not supposed to be like this. I used to dream about opening a bookstore cafe, something warm and inviting, where people could read and sip lattes with oat milk while soft jazz played in the background. It wasn't even a big dream, not a mansion on the hill kind of thing. Just a simple place that smelled like old pages and espresso. I shelved that dream around the same time I maxed out my last credit card buying groceries and paying rent. Now I work part-time at a warehouse and do freelance graphic design in the evenings. Both pay just enough to keep me afloat, but not enough to really live. Rent went up again last month, by $200 this time. My landlord sent out a cheerful email with the subject line "Important Update." I cried in the shower that night, water mixing with salt, trying not to make noise because my walls are paper thin and I hate the idea of my neighbors hearing me fall apart. Every decision I make, every meal, every outing, every thought, passes through the same mental filter: can I afford this? I've become fluent in a quiet math, always subtracting before I can say yes to anything. Friends want to meet for dinner? I pretend I'm tired, or that I have work. Sometimes it's true. More often, it's because $28 for a burger and a drink feels reckless when my power bill is due. Groceries have turned into a game of trade-offs. Oat milk or toilet paper? Chicken or tampons? I stretch meals like elastic, finding ways to make a single rotisserie chicken last 3 days. I learned to make soup from scraps and to act grateful when someone offers leftovers. I've become a connoisseur of bulk bin rice and the cheapest brand of coffee, the one that tastes vaguely like cardboard and regret. I don't buy clothes anymore unless they come from the thrift store. My sneakers have holes near the soles, and I walk everywhere because gas prices make my car feel like a luxury I can barely afford to keep. I ration how far I'll drive each week like I'm in some kind of self-imposed dystopian story. The thing that gets me most isn't the poverty itself, it's the pace of it. Like no matter how fast I move, how hard I work, I never catch up. Every raise I've gotten has been swallowed by inflation. I remember feeling proud when my freelance rate went up by $10 per hour last year. A week later, my internet bill increased by $20 a month and eggs cost almost double. It felt like the universe was laughing at me. There's this constant pressure, like being slowly crushed under an invisible weight. I feel it when I wake up and when I try to fall asleep. I feel it when I scroll through Instagram and see old classmates on vacation, drinking cocktails on beaches while I'm debating whether to cancel Spotify Premium. I feel it when my mom calls and tells me I can always move back home if things get bad, even though she's barely getting by herself and I'd rather eat glass than be another mouth she has to feed. I know people say money isn't everything, but I don't think they mean it. Not really. Money is the space between panic and peace. Between saying yes and saying no. Between surviving and dreaming. I've had to let go of so many things just to survive. Dating, for one. I can't remember the last time I went on a real date. How do you explain to someone that you can't split a bill because your bank account is in overdraft? Or that you're afraid to fall in love because relationships mean birthdays and holidays and dinners out and all the things that cost money? I used to want to travel. I wanted to hike in Norway, see Tokyo at night, maybe visit South Africa where my grandmother was born. I still watch travel vlogs sometimes, letting myself pretend for a few minutes that I'll get there someday. But it's hard to keep pretending when you're wiping down a conveyor belt at your warehouse job for the 5th time that day, your back aching, your stomach growling because you skipped lunch to make your paycheck stretch. I cope by making lists. It sounds silly, but every Sunday I write down things I can control. I meal prep. I budget down to the cent. I clean my little studio apartment like I'm trying to summon some sense of order in the chaos. I draw. I design. Sometimes I make something beautiful and it feels like resistance, like a reminder that I'm still here, still fighting, still creating even in the middle of this mess. There's a strange kind of strength that comes from surviving like this. It hardens you, but it also teaches you how to appreciate the smallest joys. A walk in the park. A good library book. A text from a friend saying they thought of you. On really good days, I let myself hope again. I sketch out the bookstore cafe and try not to think about how many years away it probably is. But mostly, I just keep going. One step, one invoice, one meal at a time. It's not the life I dreamed of, but it's the one I've got. And somehow, I still believe that if I just keep moving, keep working, something will break open. Something will change. Because it has to. Right? It's weird how tired I feel all the time. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. I sleep, when I can, but the exhaustion clings to me like damp clothes in winter. It's the kind of tired that comes from carrying too many things at once, for too long. Mostly bills. And rent. And fear. I'm 27. I work full-time as a customer support agent for a tech company. It's not glamorous, but it's stable. If you can call something that pays $21.50 an hour stable in a city where a studio apartment costs $1,800 a month. The math doesn't really add up, and I think that's where the heaviness starts. You can budget all you want, cut corners, drink instant coffee, cancel subscriptions, stop going out, but the numbers don't change. Rent goes up. Groceries go up. Even the dollar menu is now $3. Every decision I make has a price tag attached to it. When I wake up, I debate whether I should walk the 40 minutes to work or take the bus. The bus isn't that expensive, but it's one more line on my spreadsheet of guilt. I think about whether I should get something small for breakfast on the way, then remember the $13 overdraft fee I got last week for buying a bagel when I forgot I'd scheduled a payment. You start to see your life in transactions. $12.47 at the grocery store, snacks and pasta. $36 for phone bill. $97.88 for electric and gas combined. I guess I used the heater too much in March. It all adds up. And you start subtracting parts of yourself in return. I used to love art. Drawing, painting. I had this dream, back in college, of designing illustrations for children's books. I'd stay up late sketching under a cheap desk lamp, imagining the stories I'd tell. But now I don't draw anymore. It feels like a luxury to pick up a pencil when my brain is screaming about overdue credit cards and how I can't afford to fix the hole in my only winter coat. Every time I try to sit down and create, I feel a rush of guilt, like I'm wasting time I could be using to find a side gig, or do online surveys, or just sleep so I'm not a zombie at work tomorrow. There's a kind of grief that comes from shelving your dreams because your reality can't support them. I don't talk about it much, because what's the point? Everyone I know is going through some version of it. My roommate, Sasha, works 2 jobs and still borrows money from her mom sometimes just to pay for gas. My cousin dropped out of college and moved back in with our aunt because even with a degree, he couldn't land anything above minimum wage. We joke about it, like, late-stage capitalism strikes again, but the humor's thin. You can see the tired in our eyes. I'm careful with food now. I try to make 1 bag of rice last the whole month, bulk buy frozen veggies, avoid anything name brand. I drink water out of reused takeout containers instead of buying cups or glasses. Sometimes I skip meals, not because I'm starving, but because I'm trying to make groceries stretch. There's a twisted kind of pride in it. Like I've mastered survival, though it doesn't feel like living. There are little coping mechanisms I use to stay afloat emotionally. I take walks. I write in a journal when I can, just to untangle the anxiety from my chest. I have a playlist of music that calms me down when I feel overwhelmed. And sometimes, if I'm lucky, I let myself dream again for a few minutes at a time. I imagine a future where I'm not just surviving. A future where I wake up in a home I love, where I work in a job that feeds my soul instead of draining it. Where I can paint again. Maybe even teach art to kids someday. But then rent is due. Or I get a notification about my account balance. Or I see the cost of eggs has gone up again. And the dream fades back into the background, like static behind a song. There's a lot of shame in being broke, even when you're doing everything right. I went to school. I worked during college. I got good grades. I networked. I applied to hundreds of jobs. I read every article about financial literacy, downloaded the budgeting apps, stayed away from credit card debt, until I couldn't. I did the things society told me would lead to stability. But the ladder keeps getting taller, and the rungs further apart. And every time I climb a little, something pushes me down again: unexpected car repairs, medical bills, inflation, layoffs. It's hard not to take it personally, even when I know it's systemic. The worst part is that I don't know how to plan long term. How do you think about buying a house or starting a family when you're not sure if you can pay rent next month? I haven't been to the dentist in 3 years. I have a cracked molar I keep chewing around. Health insurance is technically included with my job, but the deductibles are laughable. I avoid doctors like the plague because the last time I got sick, I ended up with a $600 bill for a 10-minute visit. Sometimes I lie awake at night and wonder what I'm even working toward. Not in a hopeless way, more like, confused. What is the end game here? Do I grind like this for another 10 years and hope the economy softens? Do I move somewhere cheaper and lose my support system? Do I just keep pushing until I burn out completely? And yet, somehow, I keep going. I don't know if that makes me resilient or just resigned. But I show up. I answer emails with a fake cheerful tone. I walk to work even when my legs ache. I call my mom and pretend everything's okay because she already worries too much. I stretch leftovers, skip lattes, and say no to invitations I can't afford, even if it hurts. I guess I'm still hoping. Not wildly, not blindly, but softly. Quiet hope. Hope that things might shift. That one day, I'll be able to breathe without doing mental math. That I'll find a way back to art. That I'll be able to give more than just my labor to the world. Maybe that's what keeps me going. That thin thread of maybe. For now, I keep walking. I keep waking up. I keep surviving. And sometimes, in the smallest ways, I remember how to live. It's hard to explain what it feels like to always be on edge, like you're walking a tightrope that's constantly fraying. Every month, I check my bank account, and every month, I feel the same twist in my gut. The numbers never lie, income is static, bills are endless, and the gap between the two is growing wider. It's 8 a.m., and I'm standing in front of the coffee machine, staring at the empty cup in my hand, willing myself to take a breath. I have to get to work soon, another shift where I'm barely keeping my head above water. It's a simple enough job, I guess, but no one ever told me how much of your soul it would cost. I don't even drink coffee for the energy anymore. I drink it to numb the noise in my head. The buzzing thoughts of debt, rent, credit card bills, student loans, and grocery costs, an endless cycle. I wasn't supposed to feel like this at 25. Everyone around me has dreams. They talk about career goals, vacations, buying houses. I just want to survive. Some days, it feels like I'm drowning in a system that's rigged against people like me. Growing up, I thought hard work would mean something. I thought I could rise up, be something more than just a cog in the machine. But now, with every paycheck, it feels like I'm barely treading water, and I'm not sure how much longer I can keep it up. I try to stay hopeful, but the constant pressure wears me down. I used to daydream about going back to school, about having the freedom to create and explore. I even thought I might get to travel someday, see the places I've only read about in books. But those dreams seem so far away now. They feel selfish, almost. I've learned that I can't afford to dream too big when the reality of rent and bills is so much bigger. My friends are in similar situations. We all commiserate over drinks when we can afford them, joking about how we're living the dream in our tiny apartments and sharing Netflix accounts. But it's not a joke anymore. It's survival. And the more we talk about it, the more we're all aware of how much we're stuck in this cycle. None of us are really going anywhere. We work, we pay bills, and we hope the world doesn't get worse while we're trying to just stay afloat. It's hard to remember a time when I wasn't thinking about money every single day. It feels like a weight I carry on my shoulders, even when I'm trying to relax. The thought of how little I have compared to what I owe, that's the thought that greets me first thing in the morning and the last thing at night. I've started skipping meals just to save a few dollars, or I'll cook something cheap, even if it doesn't taste good, because at least it's filling. I've become an expert at finding ways to cut corners. But the more I trim, the more I realize how little room there is to breathe. Some nights, I lay awake, my mind racing. How did it get to this point? How did I end up here, working nonstop but feeling like I'm not getting any closer to where I want to be? I keep telling myself that it's just temporary, that one day things will improve, that the sacrifices will lead to something bigger. But with every price increase, every bill that comes in a little higher than expected, the future feels further and further away. I've had to make peace with a lot of things that once mattered. I wanted a car, a small one, something to get me around without relying on public transportation. But with the cost of insurance, gas, and maintenance, I've had to let go of that dream for now. I wanted to take a vacation, just a short trip to the beach or the mountains, something to escape the grind for a little while. But every time I look at my bank account, I know it's not happening. Not this year, not next year. Maybe in a few years, if I'm lucky. It's not even about material things. It's about the feeling of having options, of being able to make choices that don't feel like they come with an unbearable price tag. I can't even buy new clothes without worrying about how much I'm cutting into my grocery budget. It's like I'm constantly making small sacrifices, and in the end, it's all just survival. I wonder what it would feel like to not have to make decisions based on what I can afford. It's a feeling I can't even imagine anymore. The hardest part is seeing people around me do things I wish I could do. Friends going out to dinner at places I can't even afford to look at the menu, people my age buying homes, taking vacations, living a life that seems like it belongs to someone else. They ask me what I'm doing with my life, and I don't have an answer. Because it's hard to explain to someone who isn't stuck in the same trap how it feels to be constantly making decisions based on fear of not having enough, fear of falling behind. Some days, I try to make sense of it. I try to remind myself that I'm not alone in this. That everyone has struggles, that this is just part of the journey. But it's hard to see the end when it feels like the journey is endless. And it's even harder when I know I'm not the only one stuck here. I hear about people in worse situations than mine, people who are living paycheck to paycheck in ways that are even more precarious. It's humbling in a way, but it doesn't take away the pressure. It just makes it clearer that we're all trapped, together. I tell myself that I have time. I tell myself that this is just a chapter, that things will get better eventually. But even those thoughts come with an asterisk. What if they don't? What if things keep getting more expensive, while wages stay the same? What if the future I'm waiting for is just a dream I can never reach? I cope with these thoughts the best I can. I exercise when I can, mostly to distract myself from my mind, to get out of my head for a while. I write sometimes, too, though I'm not sure why. I'm not a writer, but somehow putting my feelings on paper makes them feel a little less heavy. Sometimes I call my mom just to hear her voice, because she's always been my rock, even when she's struggling too. I think we all hold on to each other, trying to keep from slipping further down. In the end, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know when or if things will get better. But I keep going because I have to. I keep trying to believe that, eventually, this won't be my life forever. But for now, it is. And I'll keep fighting to make it through, even when it feels like the weight of it all might crush me. I never thought adulthood would feel like this. When I was younger, I used to think being grown up meant freedom to make choices, to shape your life the way you wanted. I imagined a job where I'd feel secure, a house that I could decorate with memories, maybe a car that I could afford without watching every penny. But now, it's different. Now, it feels like I'm always standing on the edge of a precipice, one small misstep away from falling into a mess I can't climb out of. I wake up every day to the sound of my alarm blaring, and it takes a minute for me to even remember where I am. The room is small, and even though it's supposed to be a studio, there's not much studio about it. It's just a small box with a bed crammed into one corner and a tiny kitchen where I can barely open the fridge door without it hitting the counter. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part is the relentless, suffocating worry that hangs in the air like a fog. I check my bank account first thing, and it's like clockwork, there's always just a little bit less than what I need. Rent's due in a week, and I don't have enough. Again. I always do this mental gymnastics, trying to figure out where I can cut corners. Can I go without lunch today? Do I really need coffee, or can I drink the stale one that's been sitting in my mug since yesterday? It's like I'm constantly running a mental spreadsheet in my head, trying to calculate how to make the numbers work. But no matter what, they never do. The thing is, I've done everything I was supposed to do. I graduated from college with a degree that seemed like it would open doors. I applied for job after job, always convinced that if I worked hard enough, I'd get ahead. But here I am, working 2 part-time jobs that don't pay enough to cover the basics, let alone save for anything long-term. The rent keeps going up, the grocery bills keep climbing, and I keep hearing people talk about how the economy is recovering or how things are looking up. But that doesn't feel real when you're living paycheck to paycheck, when you have to decide between buying toothpaste or paying the electric bill. At some point, I stopped counting on things getting better. The excitement I used to feel about a future where I'd have a career and a stable life has faded into a dull ache of resignation. I watch people on social media posting about vacations, about moving into new apartments, about buying their first homes, and it stings. I tell myself I shouldn't feel jealous. Everyone's journey is different, right? But the truth is, it's hard not to feel like I'm falling behind. Like I'm stuck in a cycle where the bar keeps rising, but I'm running in place, trying to catch up, gasping for air. And then there's the emotional toll. Some days, it's just hard to get out of bed. It's like my body knows that even if I do, the day is going to be filled with anxiety, decisions I don't want to make, and compromises I can't avoid. I've gotten so used to feeling overwhelmed that I've stopped even recognizing it as stress. It's just part of the routine now. And that's what hurts the most, this constant, grinding weight that I've learned to live with, but never really accepted. I know I'm not alone in this. So many people my age are struggling with the same pressures: student loan debt, soaring rent, bills that don't stop coming. The news talks about economic growth, but it doesn't feel like it's reaching people like me. I feel like I'm a part of this generation that's getting squeezed, where the dream of owning a house or building wealth feels more like a fantasy than a real possibility. We were told to invest in our future, but all I can afford to invest in right now is survival. Some days, I try to imagine what it would be like to not have to worry about money. To get on a bus and not think about whether I have enough to buy a ticket. To walk into a store and not have to check the prices on everything, debating whether it's worth it. To be able to make plans without wondering how I'll pay for them. I dream about having savings, about being able to take a vacation, about moving into a place that actually feels like a home instead of a place to just crash. But then I remember the reality: it's not just about my paycheck. It's the system, the economy, the way it's built to keep people like me struggling, always one step behind. I don't want to blame everything on external factors, but it's hard not to feel like I'm being set up to fail. It's hard not to feel like the game is rigged, and I'm the one getting stuck with the bills for it. I've tried to talk to friends about it, but even they don't always get it. It's not that they don't care, it's just that no one seems to have the answers. We're all stuck in this. I watch as we talk about our frustrations, about how we can't afford to go out anymore, about how the economy is changing and leaving us behind, and all we can do is offer sympathy because we're all in the same boat. But sympathy doesn't pay the rent. Sympathy doesn't cover the gap between what I earn and what I need. Sometimes I think back to the dreams I had when I was younger. I wanted to be a writer, to have a life where I could create and travel, to be free to live on my own terms. I don't know when those dreams started to feel unrealistic. When the pressure of surviving each day became so overwhelming that it felt like I couldn't breathe unless I was focusing on paying bills, buying food, and keeping the lights on. It's not that I've given up on those dreams, but they feel so far away now, like something I'll get to when I've figured everything out, whenever that is. I don't even know if figuring it out is possible anymore. I try not to think too much about the future. The more I do, the more it seems out of reach. But there are moments, quiet moments, like when I'm walking home from work late at night, or when I'm sitting by myself in the dim light of my apartment, that I let myself imagine something different. I dream of a life where I don't have to worry about the next paycheck or the next bill. Where I can take a breath and know that everything is going to be okay. And maybe that's all I can do right now, hold on to that dream. It's the only thing I have that keeps me going. It's the hope that one day, things will be different. That maybe, somehow, I'll be able to look back at this time and see it for what it was, a season of struggle, but also a season of growth. But for now, I'm just trying to survive. Just trying to get through each day without sinking too deep into the fear that I'll never make it out. I don't know what the future holds, but I can't stop hoping that it will be better. Even if it feels impossible right now. Even if it feels like I'm trapped. I have to believe that someday, I'll be free from this pressure. That someday, I'll look back and see that it was worth it to keep going. That, somehow, I'll be able to breathe. But for now, all I can do is survive. And hope. I wake up early every day, even when I don't have to. There's this pit in my stomach that forces me out of bed before the sun comes up, and I'm not even sure what I'm afraid of anymore. Maybe it's just the sheer weight of everything waiting for me, bills I can't pay, the rent that gets higher every year, and the sinking feeling that no matter how hard I try, it's never going to be enough. I'm 26, and I feel like I'm already running out of time. I've got a good job, well, decent. It's the kind of job that pays enough to keep me from sinking too low, but not nearly enough to get ahead. I don't get raises anymore. There are no bonuses, no incentives. Just a flat salary that I've been stuck with for 2 years. I know it's not the worst thing in the world. People live on less, I remind myself. But it's getting harder to hold on to that thought, harder to pretend that I'm not getting crushed by the weight of everything: gas prices, food costs, utilities that always seem to go up right when I think I can breathe. It's like I'm being buried alive under a mountain of expenses that keeps growing while my paycheck stays exactly the same. I hate the feeling of living paycheck to paycheck. Some days, I don't even want to check my bank account. It's like looking into a void that never changes, no matter how much I try to fill it. When I pay my rent at the beginning of the month, it's almost like the month is already over. Then there's the grocery bill. I'm pretty good at stretching $1, buying things on sale, meal prepping for the week. But sometimes I look at the empty space in my fridge and realize there's just no room for anything more. The stuff I really want, like fresh fruits and vegetables, always seems like a luxury. I end up buying whatever's cheap, because I can't justify spending the extra money when the rent is coming up. The worst part is the anxiety. It doesn't stop. It doesn't even let me have a moment's peace. Even when I'm with friends or trying to enjoy a little time off, my mind is constantly racing, calculating. Do I have enough gas to get to work for the rest of the week? Can I afford a weekend trip that everyone else is going on, or should I just stay home again and keep the money in the bank? I used to love going out, but lately, I avoid it. Not because I don't want to, but because every time I go out, I end up regretting the money I spent. Every dinner out, every concert ticket, every little treat I indulge in feels like a betrayal to the future me, the one who is going to have to face the consequences of those small decisions. But it's not just the money that gets to me, it's the feeling of being trapped. I work hard, I do everything right, but it feels like the world is against me. Like no matter how much I hustle, I'll never escape this cycle. The rent will always go up. The utilities will always climb. The food prices won't stop increasing, and I won't see the raise I was hoping for. Sometimes it feels like the harder I try, the more I get stuck. I've had dreams. I used to think I'd be able to go back to school, maybe get a degree that would open up better opportunities. But every time I think about it, I shut the idea down. I can't afford it. Not now, not ever, it seems. I wanted to travel, to explore the world outside this little bubble. But how can I do that when I'm barely scraping by? I've wanted to take a few months off and just live, see what it's like to not worry about how I'm going to make ends meet, but that seems even more out of reach now than it ever did before. It's exhausting to keep up the appearance that everything's fine, to post a picture on social media pretending like I'm not drowning. Sometimes I wonder if anyone even notices that I'm not really okay. I don't tell people about how often I skip meals to make the rent. How I've become so used to stretching out my bills that I've almost mastered the art of pretending I don't need things like new shoes or a haircut or even a new pair of socks when the old ones start to rip. Everyone around me seems fine. They're going out to restaurants, getting new clothes, taking vacations. Sometimes I wonder if I've missed some memo about how to do this life thing. And when I start to talk about it, it feels like I'm complaining. I don't want to seem ungrateful. After all, I have a roof over my head, a job that's steady, a few friends who care. But sometimes, I just want to scream, to break out of this suffocating routine and do something different. Something meaningful, something that doesn't involve counting the pennies in my pocket every time I leave the house. The truth is, I don't know what the future holds. The fear that I won't ever escape this cycle hangs over me every day. I try to tell myself that things will get better, that one day, the economy will stabilize, and I'll finally get that promotion. But the more I hear about inflation, the cost of living, and all the things that seem beyond my control, the less I believe in that hope. Some days, I feel like I'm running in place, giving everything I have just to stay where I am. And maybe that's what scares me the most. The idea that I could work my entire life, do everything right, and still end up with nothing to show for it. That my dreams, the ones I pushed aside for so long, will always be just that, dreams. Maybe I'll never own a house. Maybe I'll never get that degree. Maybe I'll never be able to travel, to see the places I've only read about. But then I try to remind myself that I'm still here. I'm still breathing, still fighting. Maybe I can't control everything, but I can control how hard I push forward. I can't let myself give up, even when it feels like all the odds are against me. I can still make choices, even if they're small ones. I can find joy in the little things, the moments when I get a bonus, or when I find a deal on groceries, or when a friend buys me coffee. I try to hold on to those moments, because they're what keep me from slipping too far into the dark. I don't know what the future holds, but I have to believe that things can change. I have to hold on to the hope that someday, I won't feel trapped. That I'll have enough. And maybe, just maybe, I'll get to chase those dreams I've been holding off for so long. Until then, I keep going. One foot in front of the other. Every day, every decision, and every struggle. I wake up at 6:30 a.m., not because I want to, but because I have to. The alarm blares in my ears, and I know it's time to face another day of juggling numbers, debts, and a creeping sense of panic that seems to have become my constant companion. I've tried to silence it, tried to ignore it, but it's always there. It's in the pit of my stomach as I make my bed, in the click of my shoes on the floor as I rush to get ready, and in the tightness in my chest when I look at my bank account. The world around me feels like it's constantly moving faster, and I'm stuck in a race where I can't keep up. The economy keeps shifting, prices keep rising, and I'm stuck in the middle of it, trying to hold on but feeling myself slipping. Rent is due next week, and I'm already calculating in my head whether I'll be able to pay it all or if I'll have to ask for another extension. My salary hasn't gone up in months, but everything else, groceries, gas, utilities, has. I don't know when it happened, but somewhere along the way, the reality of my paycheck stopped being enough. The day-to-day choices I make now revolve around how I can make the little I have stretch further. It's not just about the big things anymore, like rent or medical bills, it's every single dollar that leaves my account. I've cut down on so much already, no more Uber rides, no more treating myself to a coffee or a meal out with friends. Even those small indulgences that used to be my way of coping feel too risky now. Instead, I ration my grocery list, buying only the essentials, rice, beans, pasta, the cheapest vegetables. I have to remind myself that I'm lucky to have food at all. But what if I can't even afford that anymore? What if the prices keep climbing? I try not to think about it too much, because then the anxiety starts to take over. I feel it building in my chest, like I'm suffocating in a room with no windows. It's not just the money, it's the weight of knowing that no matter how hard I work, I'm barely treading water. I have dreams. I used to have plans. A few years ago, I was thinking about moving into a nicer place, or maybe traveling to a new city. I even thought about going back to school, getting a degree that could offer me a better future. But now, those dreams feel like distant fantasies, fading further every time I check my bank balance or listen to the news about rising costs. I've been postponing my dreams for so long now that I'm not sure which ones are still mine. I used to imagine myself building a career, meeting someone to share my life with, maybe even having a family one day. But now, it feels like all of those things are on hold, locked away in a box somewhere in the back of my mind. The thing is, I can't give up. I can't just throw in the towel. I keep going, day after day, trying to figure out how to make it work. I've picked up extra shifts at my job, staying late to cover shifts I don't want, just to bring in a little more cash. I've even started freelancing, taking on projects I don't particularly care about, just so I can put something extra in my savings. It's exhausting. But I keep telling myself that it's just temporary, that things will get better. But I'm starting to wonder if they will. Will it ever be enough? It's hard not to feel trapped when every decision you make is dictated by survival. The world tells me I need to keep hustling, to keep grinding, but I can't shake the feeling that no matter how hard I work, I'm still going to fall short. And then there's the emotional toll. I feel guilty all the time. Like I should be doing more, trying harder. Everyone around me seems to be making it, getting ahead, buying homes, taking vacations. I try not to compare myself, but it's hard not to. It's hard not to feel like I'm failing when it feels like everyone else is succeeding. I know I'm doing the best I can, but some days, it feels like the universe is working against me. Some days, I can't stop myself from spiraling. I think about how much longer I can keep this up before I break. I imagine what would happen if I just didn't show up for work one day. I don't want to quit, not really, but the idea of disappearing, of not having to face the pressure anymore, feels strangely tempting. I know that's not a solution, but sometimes, the weight of it all is too much. Then I try to pull myself back from the edge. I remind myself that I'm not alone in this. So many people are struggling in the same way I am. We're all just trying to survive in a system that feels designed to keep us in place, to make us think that working harder is the only way out. But what if the system is broken? What if the hustle isn't the answer? I don't know. I'm just trying to keep going. Every day, I do my best. I make my rent, pay what I can, hope for a raise, and dream of a future that seems so far away. But there's one thing I've learned through all of this: the road to success, to security, isn't linear. Some days, it's about survival. Other days, it's about trying to find joy in the smallest moments, even if they don't seem like much. I try to remind myself that I'm still here. I'm still fighting. I'm still breathing. And for now, that has to be enough. Because what else can I do? The world may keep spinning faster than I can catch up, but I'll keep holding on, one day at a time. Maybe one day, things will be better. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but somewhere down the line. I hold on to that hope, even when it feels impossible. For now, it's all I have. But the truth is, I'm scared. Scared that it will never get better. Scared that this is what my future will always look like. And yet, I keep hoping. Because hope is the only thing that keeps me going, even when it feels like everything else is slipping away. For now, that's enough. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.